This episode of Twin Cities Trekkies is brought to you by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor before, let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that help you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership required. They'll also help you to distribute your podcast so it can be heard on many different platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's all you need in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 13 of Twin Cities Trekkies. I am Wes.
And I'm Kenzie.
And today, since it is Mother's Day week, I should say, it was actually on Sunday, but we're going to do it today. We'll talk about the mothers of Star Trek. And there's only like a handful of them, that kind of thing. And, some of them could be motherly figures, to other characters as well. But, I think it's a good idea to talk about this month because it is Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I think it's great, because I think mothers on Star Trek have been treated a lot differently than fathers on Star Trek, in my opinion. So
and no one would be here without the mothers.
Yeah. Yep. None of us would be here without without our mothers. So all right. So how to get in touch with us is tctrekkiespodcast@gmail.com is our email address. Feel free to send us an email, that kind of thing. You can also leave us voice messages. You just go to anchor.fm/Twin Cities Trekkies. You just find the link right there, and there's like a little button there to leave voice messages. I think, and then once you leave a voice message, it automatically gets an email to us. So, and stuff like that, because we did have a voice message a few episodes back. So definitely do that. That's perfectly fine. You can also leave us comments on Instagram and Facebook. Handle us TC Trekkies Pod for both, or you can definitely leave a comment on the YouTube video. Twin Cities Trekkies is pretty easy to find on YouTube. Just type in Twin Cities Trekkies, obviously, and we're available. We're available on every platform you can think of. And just keep in mind that any comments you may leave may be featured in an upcoming episode of this podcast. Okay, so let's talk about the mothers of Star Trek. Granted, there's only a few.
Definitely some notable ones.
Definitely some notable ones. Like Lwaxana Troi, for example. Let's bring up that. Like that. She. I think
intense character.
Very, definitely. Mother of Deanna, and she is a thorn in Picard's side. I can tell you that for sure.
Yes.
So yeah,
and then in the same breath of the Next Generation, you got Beverly Crusher just hanging out, raising her son on
alone.
On the Enterprise. So.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. You got Beverly Crusher. Yep, definitely. And it's, I think, they don't really interact that often between Lwaxana and Beverly. That would have been interesting to see more of a conversation there, but it only happened. It only happened a few times. I mean, it wasn't like a full on drag out discussion, but it's just I know Lwaxana's there. When we first meet her in the first season, she is like this overbearing mother, obviously, which And she's
It's
like,
tough.
it's tough. I mean, I mean, I'm sure we all have overbearing parents who like want to do the like they always insist they want to do the best for us, but you just want to like, hey, back off. I mean,
Yeah, you get a kind of a contrast of a lot of different mothers on Next Generation. You also have Mrs. O'Brien as well,
yep,
and
Keiko.
then see her go into being a
Hmm.
teacher in Deep Space Nine and living that life, and you
Hmm.
get to see, like all the children on the ship growing up under like her influence as a teacher. So she
Hmm.
not only has to be like a mother, but also being a teacher to children, which in itself a lot of mothers do end up being.
Yep, which is like, yep, definitely with yeah, definitely Keiko O'Brien. I've seen a lot of hate for her, and it's nothing like racial or anything like that, Um, Rosamund Chow is obviously a great actress. She's been in a lot of other things,
Yeah.
but it's like, people are like, she's like, I've seen a lot of hate. I've seen a lot of hate whenever she's brought up on like, in like Facebook discussions or something like that. I see a lot of people going like, ugh, I hate that woman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's really quite interesting. I don't comment on those because I'm just like, it's just, some people have a problem with differentiating the actress from the character, which is unfortunate,
Yeah.
what happened in the last few years, especially with Rosemary Tran, who played what's her name in the last Rose Tico in the Star
Yeah.
Wars sequel trilogy.
Hmm.
Kelly Marie Tran. I got those names mixed up. So yeah, yeah, and she was forced to leave social media because people absolutely hated Rose Tico for whatever reason,
Yeah. I
and
can't
they
get behind that where it's like you can't differentiate the character from the actual person portraying them. It's like
yeah.
their lives shouldn't be affected by a character. They took the time and courage to play out, even if it doesn't sit with them in real life. Like, and I don't understand Kiko's
Yeah,
hate because I feel like I see a lot of people be like, "Dang, O'Brien would be nothing without her." Like she definitely makes sure that he's being responsible and like reminding him about things and
hmm,
like taking care of so much stuff. Like and also like I don't know, you get to see that the motherhood thing kind of become like what it means to be a mother and a wife versus like being a single mother versus being a mother that kind of mothers everybody on the ship.
yeah, exactly, and definitely with like, yeah, yeah, a single mother, which is Beverly Crusher, obviously, and that kind of thing, single parents, it is hard to be us. I mean, I'm not speaking from experience, but like a fun fact about me, but both my biological parents are divorced. So I was like raised by a single parent, both for my father and my mother for the first 18 years of my life. So it is kind of, and it's kind of hard, to like, how to like, you know, be a person, like be like, the offspring of your of I don't know how to describe it, but
A
it's
couple
just
of yeah, divorce is a big part of a lot of people's lives. Like
yeah.
having to be separated, like not seeing that interaction between two parents, but on your
Hmm.
own level, but just being able to have the interaction, I guess, with both parents still could be nice. Like I've seen it some ways where someone spends only one time with one parent and that's it, and seen it where someone doesn't have a mother in their life, and I
Hmm.
think that's like something that people can look up to a lot of these like characters, like mother characters or even motherly characters,
Yep.
which we have plenty of as well. Like
Yes.
not necessarily mothers, but like it's like Guinan is kind of like a little bit of like a motherly character a
Yep.
bit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we also get to
Guinan.
see the yeah, Guinan's I mean like I don't know. I just feel like even though she's not a mother, she's very motherly.
I mean, she did mention she had like at one point I think she had 20 kids or something like that, because her species is long lived. So,
Yeah.
but I think she mentioned that once. Oh, 23. Yeah, 20. Oh, wait, that's
Yeah.
marriages. That's marriages. That was marriages. I remember that. That was a
Yeah.
nemesis. That was a
But it's
nemesis.
like, I wonder, it's a sort of a definition of like, what does it mean to be motherly or be this like parent or some sort of guidance? Like, I think a lot of people look up to mothers as someone who gives them guidance or help or a lot of emotional comfort. I feel like reassurance, like looking at Worf's mom, like in his
Yeah,
interaction with her versus the mom of his own son, which we briefly get to
yeah,
know, but has a
yeah.
very rocky relationship with his
Hmm.
own son because of that.
Hmm.
It's such a contrast of like, what does it mean to be a mother in Klingon culture? What does it mean to be a mother in Vulcan culture? What does it mean being mom in Vulcan culture when you're not Vulcan, like Spock's mom?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that. Yeah, Amanda. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, definitely. How can you be a mother in Vulcan society? Because you have a human mother, but also a Vulcan father. It's
Yeah.
just like all the like she has to keep her emotions in check.
Yeah.
And
And
it's kind
then
of
you
yeah.
see the way it affects like trying to uphold the pride and
Hmm.
respect for the family as Spock is bullied growing up for it.
Yep.
And that even in a world where emotions are checked, bullying is still an issue. People still judge on such things and
Hmm.
having to overcome that and live with that. But that he does love his mother regardless of, like the reputation that it might entail, that
Hmm.
he's still really proud of it.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. I mean, talking about like mothers and stuff like that. Spock asked in both the Kelvin and the Prime universes, "Why did you marry her?" He had said it, like in the Prime universe, Sarek says it was the logical thing to do. At the time, it's the
Yeah.
logical thing to do. In the Kelvin timeline, when his mother is killed during from Nero, Sarek tells Spock he married her because he loved her. Uh,
Hmm.
it's different.
Yeah.
I just realized there are two different answers, you know,
Yeah.
from both Sareks, and it is kind of Sarek and Amanda were also the foster parents of Michael Burnham from Discovery.
Hmm.
So, and how they also raised her when her parents were supposedly killed. I mean,
Yeah.
supposedly,
Yeah.
when in reality it wasn't. But I mean, especially
This
her
is
mom,
this is finger quoting here to everybody listening. If
because
it
it was,
wasn't,
yeah,
quote
yeah,
quote.
yeah, because her mother is still alive,
Yeah.
so it just went into the future. But it's just like, yeah, we're supposedly killed, and stuff like that, and that kind of thing. They taught, I mean, I was like Amanda and stuff like that. With I just thought about the whole thing regarding Alice in Wonderland, because that was mentioned in the animated show, but
Yeah.
also and then made canon in Discovery because you know Amanda would always read that book to Spock and Michael when they were young. So
Yeah.
yep, and I just remember that for some reason because mothers always read bedtime stories to their children.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, fathers did it once in a while, but it was
Yeah.
mainly the mothers who did that. I know my mother did it when I was a toddler and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My mom used to
I
do
always
that.
think it's funny because my dad definitely was almost more of like the motherly like person in my life because my mom worked a lot of jobs. She was very busy. She worked quite a few jobs to make ends meet. Well, my dad had like a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job, so he had us most evenings. So he'd be the one reading us books and cooking us food and cleaning the house, which I mean, I grew up just seeing that, so it never felt like something that like a mother would have to do. But my dad was definitely the more like emotional one. But my mom was someone where like I see moms as like even if they've struggled or been through a lot, they tend to be this pedestal of just confidence and reassurance in life because even when I was like younger, and I tended to be a lot more close with my dad because he's really sciencey, nerdy guy. My mom was
Hmm.
definitely more like, "Can you just be a little more normal, please? Put the bugs away and the sci-fi stuff, and like go put some makeup on." I'm like, "Well, I could do both, and bugs and makeup, cool." But as I got older, I had so much respect for my mom, just seeing all the stuff she had to go through being a lady. She was, like the things that like where you see injustices to women, like for being mothers. Like my mom was laid off from her job when she was pregnant with me, which is technically illegal, but you can't really do anything about it. And what is she supposed to do? Try to stir the pot and make a big deal about it? Well, she's pregnant, trying to deal with stuff. It's like, I'm just going to move on, keep moving forward, get a job again, and like keep this going. And you see characters like that too. Like you see Moogie,
Yep.
for the Ferengi mom, like that. Ferengis treat women in society terribly, and you get to
Yeah.
see this sort of mother figure who's actually intelligent and super smart, and just this really bright, outspoken person,
Yep.
like challenge that and change the way that these young boys are going to actually see different Ferengi women being like, "Hey, you're not going to grow up learning to treat women this way,
No.
and make you better than that." And that's sort of like that's a big thing. Like I feel like mothers pass on a lot of generational knowledge of like what they want to see moving forward, like passing on perceptions and knowledge about how people should be treated, and people can learn from their mothers about that.
Yeah, definitely about Moogie. I forgot about her. Cork and Rom's mom. I forgot about that.
Ooh,
Moogie. I had to say that once. I have to say that once
ooh, yeah.
because Max Grodensik, who played Rom, did it so well the first time we actually
Mm-hmm.
meet Moogie, Ishka, um,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're right. Ferengi society treats women like really, really bad. It
Yeah.
was, it's like, uh, I bet you, it was probably like, I know that the Ferengi were created originally to be a villain, but then in Next Generation, and it was so horrible, uh,
Yeah.
so
And I,
horrible.
I love what they did. That's why I like Deep Space Nines, because they
Mhm.
did such a good job really fleshing out like no one is ever absolutely a villain. And that's why I like that they were like, there's a lot more complexities. Because if really taking a step back, if we looked at the Star Trek universe, if there's anybody that would be villains, they'd be humans. Like
Yeah,
between humans and Klingons, we kind of both have some bad rap where it's like, just because it's written from the perspective of humans, it tends to be a little more like, "Oh, we're fine." But if we're looking historically, it's like, are those guys should be the villains, right? They're kind of bad, right? Like, and so
yeah,
it's nice to see them kind of reinvent and make sure that people
yeah,
see the depth in something that would originally be like just like Klingons too, being like, absolute enemies, that's it. And it's like, no, uh, there's a bit of a difference there.
yes, definitely. And like I said, the Ferengi were originally envisioned to be the villains of Next Generation. They were originally envisioned to be just so evil species, and then when they were first appeared in the last outpost, it ended up being so much of a horrible way to it was acted so horribly. Like to this day, Armin Shimmerman, who played the very first Ferengi ever shown on Star Trek, has taken all of the blame for the way they were portrayed to this day. I know he said it numerous of times, even after they were introduced, and even after DS9 ended. He says, "I take full responsibility. They never should have been acted that way." Um, unfortunately, but then they ended up being comic relief. That's why
Yeah,
it ended up being comic relief in DS9, which was a good thing. But yeah, definitely the way Ferengi society treats women is horrible. They're required to chew the men's food. They're required to be naked. Um, so
yeah,
it's kind of like 50s America, 1950s America times 10. Like, if it was like, if the 50s America of like the housewife being home, taking care of the children, that kind of thing, while the man worked and stuff like
yeah.
that. So,
We
and
we
and
see
then the
those
woman be
aspects.
naked. So,
Yep. Well, and that's sort of like you see those recurring aspects in different species. Like even with Klingons too, depends on like which parent is the human counterpart of that, right? Like looking at Vulcans and where the mother is human
Hmm.
and the father is Vulcan. Look at B'Elanna, Torres's mom is Klingon
Yep.
and the father is human, but that her mother was someone who is kind of a hard relationship for her to have because
Hmm.
her mom was really into the traditionalist views of the Klingon culture and really wanted her to grow up being a traditional woman Klingon. And her dad was like, nah, you go to school, you do your thing. And the moment that they divorced, that her mom re-enlisted her in private schools for learning Klingon and learning the values, which again is a very weird contrast to seeing something where we imagine a mother to be maybe like the human counterpart of those relationships, like with Spock,
Hmm.
and then being a little more of like a guiding person. Whereas Alana was definitely like, nah, mom, I want to do my own thing. I'm not following these traditions that even repress you, but you're still trying to enforce it on me, and you can't see that it's a bad thing.
Yeah, and then Lineage from Voyager is actually one of my favorite episodes from the last year of Voyager, is because we got to learn so much more about B'Elanna than we had ever learned before. I mean,
Yeah,
she has had this internal conflict of being both Klingon and human, and sometimes the Klingon temper won out. But
yeah.
and
Which doubles it down as like an even worse thing for girl, like human women being already stereotyped as being highly emotional, and then
yeah,
you add a layer of Klingon on top of it, and it makes for her to have a really tough perception of people calling her out on it all the time.
yeah, and I mean, and it's really kind of sad some of the things that what she went through when she was a teenager and stuff like that. Like her cousins were very much, you know, I had to say this, racist uh,
Yeah,
towards Klingons. I hate to say that, but they kind of were.
yeah.
And
Well, and
then,
like you see those struggles of like that, but that
mhm,
that her mother is the one that kind of doesn't really protect her from it. She's kind of like, face it, own it, it's fine, be proud of being Klingon,
yep, yep,
which is
yep,
hard, but
hmm yep. And then her father was like venting to his brother that he was not living with two Klingons who were both very emotional and stuff like that. He was like, "Oh, I'm sick of this" and stuff like that. And she pretty much told him, "If you can't still live with us, then why don't you just go?" And unfortunately,
yeah,
and it caused her to have estrangement from her father.
yeah,
It was just kind of sad, to be honest with you,
yeah,
because we've had estranged parents before, like Spock for 18 years didn't speak to Sarek at all because Sarek opposed his entry into Starfleet Academy,
yep,
stuff like that. So we've always had estranged parents in Star Trek, uh, and it's unfortunate the circumstances that lead up to that are very very sad.
mm-hmm.
With B'Elanna and Spock and other ones too. I mean,
Yeah,
Data had a mom too, and she was an android. So
yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
it's like, how do you address that? Like, that's another weird combination of relationships. Like, how do you
yeah,
handle that lineage?
exactly. Like and I mean, yeah, it's Data had a mama and stuff like that, and
I think one of my favorite, besides
mhm.
O'Brien's wife and getting to see her be a working mom while also being a parent, is Samantha Wildman from
Oh yeah,
Voyager,
yep,
Naomi's mom. And
yep,
like the fact that pretty much up until she was in labor, she was just working and helping the crew and
hmm
just being a part of things. It's like, it's so wild to me. And, Naomi gets to hang out with everybody, and especially Seven of Nine, and have a really
hmm
good relationship with her,
yep,
considers her family. And Seven of Nine herself doesn't really associate with her childhood past because of being assimilated when she's like just a child.
hmm
So Naomi's
yeah,
her closest family she has.
yeah, definitely. And Neelix being her godfather and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny about, up until when she was born, every episode before that, it was always going to be a boy. And then Naomi is born for, I mean, it ends up being a girl for some reason, not explained why, but ends up being a girl. That kind of happened with Spot too, because Data's cat. Data's cat was originally a male, and then for some reason turned into a female. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of weird sometimes the writers forget like what species you start out with, like what gender you start out with for
Yeah.
for a character, like Spot or Naomi or or Wildman's baby, because it was supposed
Hmm.
to, you choose males, but then you end up changing them for some reason
Yeah.
to female for some reason. But you mentioned Seven, she was kind of a mother figure too, to
Hmm.
like Icheb and the other children who the Voyager
Raised
rescue.
on Voyager.
Yeah, the other bored children that were on Voyager. So so I think I mean, she got better, when they first came aboard, she was like scheduling out all their activities, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
then
I
Neox
feel like
told her,
it helped her rediscover her humanity, getting to be a motherly figure. It really helped her find her roots in her
yeah,
human side of herself.
yeah, definitely. And that was really reinforced actually when, spoiler alert, when Ichab was killed in Picard season one.
Yeah.
Definitely she was very, I mean,
Motherly rage.
she never really got over his death.
Yeah.
So in that episode, she finds the person who killed him and just murders her in cold blood. And
Yeah.
as
So it's her son. It's that motherly rage.
yeah, the motherly rage, it cannot be ignored.
Mama bear.
Yeah,
Some mama bear rage.
yeah, exactly. You do not mess with a mama bear
Yeah.
with any circumstances.
Hmm.
Yeah. And to Paul, I mean, her mother was, I mean, to Paul from Enterprise, she was technically a mother herself, even though it was a plot
Yeah.
about xenophobia towards aliens. She was technically that. I mean, with, I mean, with stuff like that, and it's. I mean, unfortunately, the baby dies, but
Yeah.
but it's just she was technically a mother herself, and
Yep.
stuff like that, and it's kind of crazy that we met her mother in the final year of Enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
so.
less.
Mhm.
I think that's, yeah.
Yeah, and a couple episodes of Enterprise, and stuff like that. And she was kind of like a hard-nosed woman, kind of like what a Vulcan
Very
mother
traditional,
probably.
another traditionalist in their culture. You see a lot of
Yeah.
these women who are traditionalized, like they feel they need to uphold the values and continue that, even if it affects them and their outlook on life. Like even if it's repressive to them, they still feel that that needs to be a continuation. And that's why I liked Moogie, because I'm like, because she she stood up to that, being like, no,
Hmm.
that's not how we're going to raise the kids to see that, like, I am smart and intelligent and can do what I want. So
Yeah,
we're going
and
to have them see that.
yeah, and Moogie had like all the financial knowledge and stuff like that. She was very intelligent, that kind of thing. While their father was a loser, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And it caused conflict between Quark and his mother a few times, um, stuff like that. To the point where, I mean, she eventually became like the secret financial advisor to the Grand Nagus, because she had all these financial knowledge.
Yeah.
She like, it's crazy that she knew all this stuff. And when Ferengi females are just there to be there for the man, make their dinner, that kind of thing, chew their food.
Yeah.
So, it's like, yeah. And I mean, I'm glad that eventually they did get equal rights. Eventually, they did eventually get equal rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
But you see that because it's caused by
mhm,
women who are mothers, especially, like getting a chance to raise a new generation of
Yep.
children to see things differently. And it is a huge part of people's lives. Like you can see the differences in the effects of mothers in these characters' lives, like how they turn out because lack thereof of a mother figure, or a
Hmm.
mother figure that wasn't one that they really liked, versus someone who's highly involved in their life, like Dr. Crusher, I mean, always with Wesley. So, you know, she gets to be a major part of him being raised on the crew, even without having a father figure, which, I mean, Picard kind of gets to become a father figure in a sense to
Yep.
him. But, like, I mean, Beverly Crusher definitely balances that like work life and then raising a son and making him feel part of everything going on, versus like a mother maybe you see once every 10 years, or one
Yep.
that you see once and that's it, and or you haven't in years. Like Alana hadn't seen her mom since the moment she left for Starfleet and was out of there, and
Yep.
then felt guilted by it because she felt that she should make sure that she doesn't bring dishonor to her and like ruin her life, even
Hmm.
if they don't care as much for each other anymore. She still loves her and feels like she owes her mother some sort of honor in their family.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that these are all great choices for mothers of Trek. You know, yeah, and we didn't like. I wish we had. Oh, we forgot what one. We forgot about. We didn't
Carol
know her.
Marcus.
Carol
Yeah.
Marcus. Yeah, definitely Carol
Yeah.
Marcus from the Wrath of Khan. You
Yeah.
know. You
I'm like,
know.
Kirk has a son? Okay. And people
Yeah.
being like, but also don't get involved in his life, leave him alone. But I'm gonna keep doing my thing. You do your thing. See
Yeah.
examples of that, of like just kind of don't acknowledge it.
Yeah. And it's like, it's interesting about Carol Marcus, she was like she raised David to be just as much a scientific mind as she was,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, even though, Kirk is his daddy, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's like yeah, it's definitely a good dynamic there. It's kind of a shame that, I think at one point they wanted her back for the search for Spock and she said no. So like,
Yeah.
because I think or something like that should have been like, like Kirk goes to see her and tells her that, David was murdered by the Klingons, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder what would have happened had they actually included that scene in like one of the movies. You know, Carol and Kirk have a conversation about what happened on the Genesis planet and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
we see Carol grieving, obviously, which would obviously happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kirk did. It was like
Yeah.
he fell down off the captain's chair. So it's like I would have loved to have seen that. I mean, granted that's a missed opportunity in the films, definitely.
Yeah,
And
especially given like such an interesting relationship on having a
mhm,
son, but trying to keep things professional and not
mhm,
exploring that relationship as a mother and a father, but instead as single parents.
mhm,
Like it's sort of kind of brushed under, and especially since it seems like, I mean, Dr. Marcus is a great mother to David because David's super smart and,
mhm,
just very, very well developed person, and so you know that she's been a good parent to him despite not having Kirk in his life. But
mhm.
that she kind of is just like, hey, let's keep it that way. Right. I don't want him to be running off after you. Like, I want him to still be just my son. And then he agrees to that. But then, you're kind of surprised that, he could die in action and you don't get to see her motherly rage about it because being
Yeah,
such an important part of his life.
yeah. So that's why I think it's a missed opportunity with the original series films, especially after the Wrath of Khan. Something could have been like, seen there, especially in Undiscovered Country, which you haven't seen.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's never, I mean, there's dialogue to the effect that Kirk never forgave the Klingons for murdering his son. There's dialogue to that
Mm-hmm.
effect. It's kind of like, What would Carol think the same? Would Carol feel the same way? Probably so. Who knows? We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't, and it's kind of sad, that
Yeah.
this kind of like, mother son thing was never really followed up in the film somehow, and
Hmm.
it's kind of sad. I mean, it's
But
that it could have been followed up in any of the after the Wrath of Khan. It could
hmm
have been followed up somehow, but it's
yeah.
unfortunate that it never was, and I think that's a very big missed opportunity, especially for Kirk and Carol Marcus.
Yeah.
So
I
it
like
could.
in the, like at least with as like Star Trek goes forward and like moves on, we see a lot more focus on motherly figures because
Mhm.
I mean in Discovery, the fact that Michael Burnham literally has three mothers basically,
Yep.
like, got actual biological mom, foster mom, and then like mirror universe adoptive mom. Like it's
Yep.
like
hmm
crazy to be like you see all these different interactions and how that affects her too, which I like. It's very cool to see that.
hmm And she knows she's come into conflict with her mother a few times, her biological mother a few times, especially, like, why did you do this for me? You left me in the 23rd century while you go gallivanting off into the future, and I'm like stuck here.
Yeah.
Why did you leave me behind? That kind of thing, and then in the third season they have a conflict again, so it's kind of crazy to, because Gabrielle Burnham is kind of a deadbeat mother. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of.
But that's why I think it's so cool because I feel like Star Trek does a really good job of making really multi-dimensional mothers. We've seen so many different kinds of moms. We've seen single mothers by choice and ones that are not by choice, like
hmm
either lost or been estranged from their husband or partner.
hmm
We've seen mothers where even though they are dead, have an effect in their afterlife on their children through like the legacy that they've left behind. And
Yeah,
we've seen mothers where they don't like being a mother, and then mothers that love being a mother, and ones that only be a mother versus working and raising children, or ones that aren't actually moms, but then sort of do become moms, like Seven of Nine, where not technically, but she pretty much is like,
hmm
does become a mom.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, I think that's about it for this particular topic. Any final thoughts, Kenzie?
Just a happy Mother's Day.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you got a favorite mother besides your own, of course.
yeah. Beside your mom, yeah,
If anyone
beside
could
your.
compete with your own mom, you got a favorite Trekkie mom. I think a lot of people would probably be like definitely Crusher. I'm a Mrs. O'Brien fan just because I love teachers, and I'm like, great for you to work hard and be a teacher while having a relationship and being an awesome mom to not only your own kids but to other kids.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, what my final thought about Keiko O'Brien is that, she became in conflict with Bajorans a few times too, especially when
Mm-hmm.
she teaches the scientific aspect of the wormhole, which the Bajorans is their temple. So of the
Yes.
prophets. So I forgot about mentioning that, so I'm going to do that as my final thought, the conflict between teaching science versus religion. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so definitely that's a great final thought for me, because the conflict between that actually is actually really really fascinating. you
Yeah,
know
and
re-
then it adds that complexity of like doing what's right and versus
yeah,
doing something controversial or what you feel is right, even if others don't think so, and
yeah.
how you even navigate that. Like, how does she navigate that and respect a culture, but also do the right thing because others deserve to know what's
hmm
really going on, even if that's not their culture.
all right, so yeah, that's my final thought for the day. Okay, so next week, episode 14. Wow, 14 already. We're going to talk about characters who should have stayed or should have gone. And that includes characters who we wanted to see more, and then probably some that actually overstayed their welcome. I think there are a few of them who overstayed their welcome. So,
Yeah.
yep. So until next week, take care and live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.